Okay, well, we move on to our last panel discussion of the afternoon, which is sustainable, actionable practices in SMEs. And for this one, I actually hand over the responsibilities on the stage, which is fantastic, because I actually get to enjoy it, which makes a nice a change of pace for me. So I'll introduce you to who we have on the panel today. So our speakers are Caroline Williams, the CEO and co-founder of Junee. We have Charlotte Mornington, Head of Impact at OLIO, and Charlotte Laing, Chief Marketing Officer at Metrikus. And our moderator for the rest of this afternoon is Sophia Kesteven, who's the lead at Tech Zero. And I'll leave you in their very capable hands, and a warm round of applause for them, please.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. These are not my usual dulcet tones. I decided to get laryngitis over the weekend, so bear with me, I shall persist. My name is Sophia Kesteven, as you heard. I am the lead at Tech Zero. We are the organisation of over 340 tech companies committed to climate action and an official partner to the UN Race to Zero. We exist to accelerate the decarbonisation of the tech industry, and we do this by making net zero less daunting and more practical for our members. So we're a network of members of organisations in the same industry facing similar challenges, sharing best practices and solutions so no one feels like they're tackling net zero on their own. Now, I did have a whole thing about de-jargonizing and defining net zero and the difference between that and carbon neutrality, because yes, it is different. But for the sake of my voice and your ears, I'm going to skip that bit. And we're just going to go straight to the panel questions, I think. So if you do want to know a bit more about net zero afterwards and what it all means, either come and find me or my colleague Ed, and also our panelists. So today we are here talking about the sustainable, actionable practices for SMEs, those practical actions that you can implement within your business in order to build a business that is good for people, planet, and profit. So with me, you've heard a bit about them, but I have Caroline Williams, the co-founder of Junee, which is tackling plastic waste from lunches, from office lunches. I have Charlotte Laing, the Chief Marketing Officer from Metrikus, which is making spaces smarter, safer, and more sustainable. And Charlotte Mornington, the Chief Impact Officer of the now famous app tackling food waste, OLIO. So I'm going to ask them to tell us not only what sustainability means to them, but how they've implemented, well, what practices they've implemented within their business to make them where they are today. And I'm going to start with you, Charlotte, and maybe you, Caroline. I want to know what scared you the most about committing to net zero or building a sustainable business and putting those practices in place.
I think for us, there has been a lot of talk about greenwashing recently. So obviously the sort of public display of committing to something and the kind of being scared that someone would call us out for not actually being able to do it was something that was a bit off-putting. But the first stage is obviously commitment, and once you actually commit to it, it's so much easier to then take the small steps. And joining Tech Zero obviously helped massively. So yeah, once we got over that initial fear of being like, right, we've committed, we do have to do something about this, it became a lot easier.
And you, Caroline, with Junee.
Yeah, I think for us, there we go. For us, one of the more intimidating things was we're very early stage. So we just got started last year. We obviously have a lot that we're still trying to figure out with our company and our business. So in the little free time that we have, it was challenging for us to come to the table and say it's worth us making the effort now to go ahead and make that commitment, start measuring what we can, and knowing that that's very likely going to be changing over the course of our early stages and hopefully eventually our later stages. So again, similar to what Charlotte was saying, it's once you make that commitment, it really takes away a lot of that initial fear because it takes you on to the next step of actually taking action.
Fantastic. And Charlotte, so as a purpose-driven company, OLIO was obviously implemented with sustainability practices from the get-go without necessarily being focused on net zero. So how did you and Tessa and the other founding team build a company with sustainability at its core?
I think for us, being aligned, the core of OLIO is really the mission of reducing waste in the home and the local community. And the product and the proposition and the viability of the proposition has really built around this core mission. And for us to be able to be consistent with what we wanted to achieve has required a tremendous amount of testing, of failing, but doing it efficiently and being able to really try and give a chance and be honest with the success of the different product propositions that we put out to capture the best ones and keep growing in the process.
That's actually a great segue, and this is something for each of you, so maybe whoever wants to put up your hand first. How are you able to grow your business at the same time as reducing emissions or balancing your sustainability goals?
I see. I think for us, it's really a matter of trade-off, and it's a matter of understanding, depending on where you are in your company and what means you have, what availability and resources you have at hand, what is suitable for you. And I would say it's probably a mistake to putting the bar too high too soon, because you have to exist. You have to be able to have an output of some sort. And understanding what is appropriate for you, what kind of effort, what kind of trade-off allows you to exist while presenting yourself to the world in a way that you're proud.
And those aren't just financial or material resources either. They're your team and the kind of team and what they bring to the table as well, their knowledge and expertise. Anyone? Charlotte, Caroline?
I think it's about measurement as well, right? So being able to sort of measure consistently and then see the areas in which, as you're scaling, it's getting harder to be sustainable and looking at those more in depth. But just having that data to hand and being able to do that on a consistent basis makes it a lot easier to make the changes you need to as you grow, because it is different at every stage.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been really helpful for us as we've kind of set up our business and grown is looking at what are the main impact areas that as we grow could have the largest impact if we don't take an action now. So for us, logistics is a key part of our experience in operation. So we made an early decision to go with pedal bikes and EVs as our sole form of logistics transportation within our system. So thinking of those types of items and how basically the benefits that you get out of making that transition today help minimize the eventual impact that they would have at a larger scale.
Yeah, so it's about getting in early and making those changes and those investments as soon as you can, which I think is one of the benefits of being an SME and not a large corporate who's like trying to turn a ship away from an iceberg. So could you provide us, going straight to the point, could each of you provide us with 3 practical steps that your businesses have taken to reduce emissions or become more sustainable?
Happy to start. So one of the first things that we did was to conduct a life cycle assessment, so really look at our supply chain process. For us, what we provide reusable packaging, and we do offsite washing, and we, of course, have the logistics I just mentioned, that power behind it. So working directly and finding an expert in that area, given that's not our personal area of expertise, to help guide us along that process. So I think always learning from peers, and for us, we worked with an academic institution to conduct this. So that was a big one for us. And as a part of that was, of course, choosing to go for EVs, looking at the different washing materials we were using, etc. Another big one for us has been looking at our workplace. So we work out of a co-working space, a lot that you feel like you might not necessarily be able to control in that environment. But again, first things first, you have to know what impact is coming from there and working directly with your workplace provider in whatever format that is. And what actually we've been working hand in hand with the co-working space we're in as they're going through, for example, their own B Corp assessment. And a lot more people are going on this journey. And so it's great to learn from them as you go and collaborate along the way.
Really? I say we'll go along.
Yeah. I have quite practical ones that we've put in place. We're a remote first company, so we've never had offices. So looking at the places where we had the most emissions, our website was a really, really important one. So we're redesigning our website, trying to use graphics and coding that is as on-heavy for the web as possible. So that's a big one for us. Encouraging our staff to change to renewable energy provider was also a good one. Using refurbished tech where we can and where it's appropriate. Again, it's a trade-off. And then also looking at the quality of our advertising material, using recycled paper, compostable envelopes, really trying as much as we can to make sure we present ourselves in a way that we're proud as much as possible.
Yeah, so we're a tech company, so we have a lot of sort of data storage. We switch from, we're happen to be actually building a new version of our platform and able to switch from AWS to Microsoft Cloud, which is 93% more efficient, I think, which is quite a big one for us. And also looking at stuff like the website as well. So that was really good. And then the other thing is, like you say, with your workplace, so monitoring things like air quality, using the building much more efficiently, not to plug what we do, but it is that, so we use our own technologies to do that. And then thirdly, that's actually completely gone out of my head what the thing we did
That's
was.
right, if it comes back, we can come back to it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, actually, I did remember. Looking at the sort of, like you were saying, the operations. So we used to get sensors shipped to our offices, and then we would sort of configure them in the offices and then ship them out to where they needed to go. But we just managed to cut out the middleman and get them shipped directly to customers. So just looking at what you can do in your sort of operations to make it more efficient.
Yeah, that is something that we hear from a lot of our members, is that the digital and website emissions tend to be out of mind, even though a lot of our members are digital based. So a service that you can use is Whole Green Digital. They're really good. They can, they'll be able to measure your website carbon pretty quickly. And another one is, of course, getting on top of your energy management in your buildings, which I think as October looms and the energy crisis looms will become much more important. So you mentioned, Caroline, that you had help, or you worked with an academic organisation. I'd love to know from any of you, so what avenues of external support have you found to implement these practices? So for example, investors or your banks or grants, what is available out there for any SMEs out there who want to get started?
Yeah, so I guess two of those in one, both an academic institution that we worked with, which was UCL and their LCA department, and that was actually funded by an Innovate UK grant. So looking for the types of resources that are out there, especially when you're early and you might not have the resources available within your organization to put towards all the sustainability efforts and initiatives you might want, looking for specific funding that could help work towards those things is great, and Innovate UK is a great organization that I highly suggest, of course, looking into if you haven't already. And then also we have gotten some great help from our investors as well. So Sustainable Ventures, for anyone familiar, they, as their name implies, are very in tune with sustainability, and they help us do impact reporting and assessments.
Yeah, I think scale-ups is a good one, actually, especially for sort of small companies and startups. Since we were switching to Microsoft Cloud, we were able to run and go on the Microsoft Scale-Up program specifically for sustainability. We got like lots of credits to use on their cloud from that. So that was a really good one and a big help to kind of get us going. And then, so one of the Tech Zero members, actually James Cannings, which I'm sure you know, became famous in our company for how much we kind of asked for his help, and he was like super helpful. So follow him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, joining Tech Zero is a pretty big one. I think it really does help. It's an amazing community that really shares loads of tips, and where you can crowdsource solutions on any issue with regards to implementing sustainability in your company in a really efficient way. So I recommend it highly. But otherwise, yes, I think the investor network for us has been very helpful. They often organize portfolio managers to come speak or experts to share insights on certain angles of sustainability, and that has helped us discover other practices that we wouldn't have known about otherwise.
Fantastic. Now, this session has absolutely flown by. So I did want to open it up to the audience. I do have a few more questions, but you may have better ones. So yes, right up the front. Is there a microphone? Sorry, I took the techies completely by surprise. Right down the front here.
Hi, thanks for sharing. All of your businesses kind of started with a purpose of sustainability in mind. What might you recommend an SME that did not get started with a purpose of sustainability, or maybe they're several years old and they want to start thinking about sustainability? What advice would you give those companies to try to make that shift?
My advice would be to start and to think what are the appropriate moves that can be done, because in the long run, it's future-proofing your company to be able to have some claims with regards to sustainability and concern for your community and an intent to do good. And it doesn't matter if it's not possible at the beginning, especially if there are operations already in place that didn't have that in mind. It's a muscle, and you have to start training the muscle, even if it's just gentle exercise at the beginning. It's baking it in your everyday and the decisions that you take in your business.
I think just to add to that as well, it is definitely harder when you don't start with that sustainability purpose, because you don't have everyone bought in. And I guess ours was kind of like that at the beginning. We're now very sustainability focused, but we didn't actually start out that way. And what we did was we kind of started this sustainability committee where we had a few people from each department. They'd meet up bi-weekly, and it kind of meant that we had this whole collective within the company who were driving it forward from different areas, and that made it a lot easier for us to kind of, one, share the burden of the time and the resource, but two, just get more people sort of bought into the journey as well.
Oh gosh, so many. We'll go here and then there. Oh, this gentleman there. Yeah.
Hi, Rob, Standing on Giants. Thank you all. Fellow whole grain digital cheerleader, so they're very good. I would recommend our website's done by them. We help businesses build communities. I wonder if you could talk about how you've engaged your customers in your sustainability journey, or your users.
Yeah, happy to start on that one. So for us, our customers use us when they're looking specifically to reduce their operational waste coming from food and beverage packaging. So little probably different.
Pretty bought in.
Yes, but one of the things that I think this kind of comes into, a lot of the organizations that we do work with aren't centered around sustainability. It's, it might be a scale-up or a law firm who are looking to have a visible solution that engages their employees and obviously reduces the waste that comes out of their building. And what we found from a lot of them is that the interest in sustainability is coming from employee demand. It's employees speaking up saying, this is crazy that we're throwing away thousands of coffee cups a day, or, all the slew of sustainability issues that tend to exist in workplaces. So I think on the kind of community front that comes there, finding a way to encourage the clients we're talking to share the impact that they have, whether it's working with us or across other initiatives they can look to, has been a great way to get them thinking about it in a more consistent and proactive manner, perhaps, than reactive to specific demands.
Well, OLIO, our product, is an app that asks people to be more sustainable and be less wasteful. So I suppose by being, we try to achieve that, and we try to reinforce it from many different angles. We've got a goal section on the app where we offer sustainable challenges that people can take that goes beyond reducing your waste and just adopting new practices that are better. But I would say that our whole ethos, if you engage with our product, which I hope you all do, intends on engaging people, basically.
Yeah, I think ours is similar. We're starting to build the product more in that way, where it's kind of showing people how they can be more sustainable through data. So, for example, especially with a lot of people working from home, we're starting to put things in the platform that say, only 2 people came in today. Like maybe put them in a different area and make, like, you don't need to put the lights on at 7 a.m. if people are coming in at 9, and starting to move people into getting more sustainable practices and trying to be more energy efficient. and then just transparency of what we're doing as well, and trying to be really open about the kind of actions that we're taking.
Yeah, I'll just add as well, so part of the commitments to the Tech Zero and also the UN Race to Zero is to publish your net zero plan on what you're planning to do or your sustainable actionable practices on your website, and it's about doing that in the really engaging way. And even if your customers don't care at all, well, they should, especially if you're B2B, because if you're taking this action and you're publishing that data, that's going to help them down the line if they also want to look at their scope 3 and using you. So they know exactly if you're reducing this emissions, they can expect their scope 3 to go down by that much as well. So it, again, about transparency and publishing as much data as you can, because if they don't care about it now, I guarantee you they will care about it in the future. I think there was a question right next to you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Amarachi Rachel Nwokoro. I'm a founder of Black Mind. And I just wanted to ask to what extent you expand your definition of sustainability to include emotional energy and somatic energy, and like what practices you have in your companies that encourage a well-being economy. That's something, we're an arts health organisation, so that's something that's very important to our daily practice, to see where we're wasting our, especially in a time where there's, huge levels of burnout, huge levels of waste. We're wasting where we are putting our time and attention and things like this. So yeah, I'm really curious about any practices that you've developed on your journeys that empower either your communities, your customers, or your staff, or yourselves to better look after your inner energy and your group energy.
Fantastic. How
Thank
do you think
you.
I got laryngitis? No. Who wants to take that one? That's a really good one.
Yeah, I love this question. I think because I don't think we did it intentionally, but the more I think about it, I think there are things that we've been doing. So one, indoor air quality can have a huge impact on your productivity levels. So things like really high CO2 can make you feel kind of more sluggish and not let your brain sort of work in the way it should. So we kind of monitor indoor air quality and make sure that those are the kind of best environment that you can be in. And the other thing is we have this app called Interlude, which is actually co-founded who works in our company. And it encourages you to take breaks, so everyone in the company has 45 minutes worth of break time above their sort of normal breaks that they would take, where they take high quality breaks. So you would do like a 50 minutes of yoga or stretching at your desk or something like that. And there's like cooking on there and a whole load of things for people who work from home. And it just allows you to switch your attention to something completely different and then be more refreshed when you come back. So we've only implemented that I think a month ago now, but we're seeing quite big traction on people enjoying that. So yeah, I think those are our top two.
Brilliant, thank you.
Any others?
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
add to that. So we, as a product, our community regularly reports to us a decrease in loneliness and an increase in financial well-being from using the platform. So I think during lockdown, during the pandemic, we saw a threefold increase of usage of the app. And I think that's in great part because in moments of stress, or in this particular circumstance at least, a lot of communities wanted to give back or wanted to feel like they could engage and they could support their communities. So I think the app does that as a product. Internally, working in a startup is hard. And it's very demanding, and it means that you work really hard, and sometimes you do burn out. It does happen. As we grow, we now have, we're using Inside Out, which is on-demand therapy that all our employees have available should they want to, and we really try to, now that we can, really invest in our employee base and their growth and their well-being and in their welfare in general.
Yeah, and then I'll just add a little bit to that. So, first off, I would love any tips you might have on how to implement that across a team.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, we're still small and definitely could use good tips on how to improve how we create that that break time and space. So, but for us, I think one of the things that, as you might imagine, a company focused on reducing waste during lunch, we try to always take lunch breaks together when we are in the office. So we do hybrid working, so of course that's not every day, but we do encourage break time during that kind of just middle of your day to refresh, whether it's, connect with others on the team or, of course, if people have other things that they want to do in their free time, having flexibility in how people schedule things and not just being a 9 to 5 by definition, but encouraging people to do their best work whenever they feel that time period is.
Brilliant. Okay. Okay, one more question. Why not? Let's go for it. And then we can...
Thank you all, by the way.
Thank you. Just... This gentleman in the blue floral shirt.
Hi there, thank you very much. My question is mainly around, I guess, sustainable growth, kind of trying to marry financial business targets with sustainability targets. Kind of how forward-thinking are you able to be when you're setting sustainability targets whilst also trying to marry that up with growth targets, basically?
It's not easy. I think that there's a lot, especially sort of these days, there's a lot of regulation coming in, and there's actually a lot of financial benefits being sustainable. In a talk just before, actually, that we're at, they were sort of saying that the hardest or the most financial part is the change, not the actual time that you're sustainable. So I think all of us that are in these sort of small businesses right now have an opportunity to kind of do that at the beginning, and then we don't have to change. So it is easier if you start early. But, being forward-thinking, I mean, in a startup, how forward-thinking can you be? Things change, within months. So, yeah, we haven't achieved, I guess, being really forward-thinking yet, and hopefully, as we scale, we'll get to that. But if you can start early, then you're in a good place.
I'd second that. And I would say, again, I think it's really a matter of trade-off. It's a matter of understanding the direction you wish to go, how consistent you are with your mission, and what are the extras that you can do, and trying to balance them against each other. But hopefully you can get to a point where they're actually quite aligned.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to add anything, or
Happy to add something, or yeah.
Yeah, go for it, and then I'll.
All right,
I'll my 2 cents at the end.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll let you wrap it up, and then So I guess I'll flip this one a little bit from our perspective as a company, who, of course, our mission is very much sustainability focused and helping people improve their own sustainability targets. I think we try to take of course, internal perspective and approach, but also look at the wider community and to the degree to which we can actually scale and bring down our own cost to make this a better cost proposition to other clients. Right now, we don't, unfortunately, have cost parity with single-use plastics, but ultimately we're working towards that. And as we can improve with scale, that creates, other opportunities to scale a solution that ultimately can contribute to other people's sustainability journeys. So depending on your organization, looking at changing the way in which you might look at things.
And I feel I'm a moderator. I shouldn't be doing this, but just my 2 cents. I feel like it's a false dichotomy to say you can either have sustainable growth or financial growth. And I think especially now when investors are looking more at your longevity and the risk, and if you don't have a plan in place in how you're going to exist in a net zero economy, they won't invest in you. So it's about, you won't have the money in future if you don't kind of tackle these now and show that you're tackling this now. And similarly with suppliers, probably going to look more for the businesses who are also monitoring their sustainability, their emissions and things like that. So for example, I know Tesco and Microsoft have sent out an open letter to all of their smaller business suppliers saying, if you don't measure emissions, then we might not work with you anymore. It's a pretty, stick approach, but not going to judge that. And as well as customers, there's a customer demand now, and as well as the people who want to work for more sustainable companies. So I think the more you get around this and on this, the more you'll grow financially as well. That's my hope anyway.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening to us. That's pretty much it. If you are interested in Tech Zero and what the community has to offer, we're really easy to find on Google, Tech Zero, or techzero.technation.io. Surprisingly, something that wasn't mentioned is obviously collaboration is a major thing. So there's loads of different companies who are really willing to work with you as part of our community. We have loads of offers and discounts which can get you on the road to net zero that much faster. So please do either email us, go on the website, have a look. Thank you, everyone. Neil, take it away.